Welcome. Thank you very much for all those that are able to be here virtually in person today and those that are watching the recording afterwards. This is our May edition of our Marion Area Safety Council. We had a couple of months off, one for the Safety Expo, and then they had the large statewide BWC safety meeting. So we haven't met for a couple months, so good to see at least names that I recognize on this today. And we have some great speakers from the BWC. They'll be talking to us about fighting workers' compensation fraud, and very happy to have them. But before I go into introducing them, we've got a couple of announcements. One, we've got a lot more to say in the future, but I did want to at least make the official announcement that our Marion Area Safety Council will be returning in person starting in July for the next program year. So we will all be back at the Guthrie room at OSU Marion campus. Very happy to be back in that room and be back with all of you. Effective for our July meeting, we'll be sending out an email with lots more information on all of that, including the return of a portion of the BWC rebate, attendance tracking. A lot of things are coming. So we'll share all that with you. I don't know if I think Laura might go into a little bit maybe with that, but most of her announcements will be Safety Council related BWC announcements. Actually, well, Laura will be next. So I guess I'm going to hand it over to Laura, our BWC rep, to kind of go over some of her announcements, please.
Yeah, hi guys. Here is hopefully my presentation. If it wants to actually show, there we go. All right, so there's my contact information. For those of you that may be new, I'm Laura Smith. I'm the safety consultant for the Marion Area Safety Council. I'm very excited to go back in person in July. I've missed you guys. It's very nice just to get out and see people. The pandemic is still going, but we'll make sure that we, do our precautions, but we're excited to see you guys in July. New changes coming. We'll announce it all later, but good things coming in the next few years. Here's some virtual training that we've got going on in May. Really looking at the dates, what is today? The 11th. We have hazard communication half-day workshop tomorrow. If you guys were interested in that, any of these topics that you see, if you have questions on them, feel free to reach out to me. I have access to all of the presentations as well as just the knowledge on all of them, so I can help you guys with these various training topics. We also have an electrical safety in the workplace through insight and implementation. This is a great class. If you guys are doing any live electrical work, definitely register for this. And also the electrical safety maintenance that is on the 23rd and 25th, or through the 25th. Those will be some good classes as well. Controlling workers' compensation costs, as well as hazardous material and waste shipping reporting requirements. Those are all the classes that we've got going on in May. Webinars. My lovely misspelling. I went to Shelby. I apologize. We'll just blame it on my Shelby education, right? We've got some webinars coming up, safe patient handling, as well as what you need to know concerning the EPA and safety for the construction industry. Construction's going strong now. So you want to make sure that you guys are taking consideration of what to do with the EPA and safety. And just so you guys are aware, we do have some new safety talks and sample written programs on our website. We have confined space, new written program, a lot of different safety talks. These are interactive safety talks. So you print them out, you give them to your employees, and then there's quizzes and things like that. So you can utilize those as documentation. So they're, again, completely free on our website. So definitely check those out. Also, Osha News, their national emphasis program in outdoor and indoor heat hazards, that is going into effect. It's really important that you consider, today's 80. My daughter yesterday came home from preschool and was just so hot. And it was our first 80-degree day. And we live in Ohio. Next week, we have highs in the 70s. So it's going to take us time to acclimate, make sure that you give enough water, breaks, and understand and give your employees time to acclimate to the heat, especially if you're in construction, anything outdoors, or even if your facility is not temperature controlled. You're going to be having employees that could be more fatigued. Today, things like that, just because we're not acclimated to this heat yet. And it's Ohio, so who knows what's really going to happen. It's, you hear people talk, we're not going to have a spring, we're going to jump right into summer, and it feels like that's exactly what's happening. So just make sure you guys are reviewing that information on the National Emphasis Program from Osha. They're going to be focusing on that type of stuff. And again, allow your employees extra water breaks, time to rest, and then work on acclimating into this warmer weather. They also have, sorry if you heard all that crinkling, my dog decides to chew on things. There's a new OSHA publication on Farmwork around manure storage. So make sure that you guys are looking into that, because there are toxic gases and things like that associated. And with that, I can stop sharing. If you guys have any questions, absolutely always reach out. We are able to come out. We as consultants are able to come out and do on-site surveys. So that's ergonomic, industrial hygiene, and safety. We are here to help. Again, non-regulatory, non-compliant, no additional fee. So definitely reach out to us. If you don't have my contact information, just reach out to the chamber and they can forward your information to me. All right, Matt, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Laura. I did miss one announcement. We did send an email out about Arc Flash training that we are co-sponsoring with MTC. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. The information about the date and cost of all that should be in your emails. So look for that. I think it's next month, Arc Flash training. And then I did want to mention briefly that we're in partnership with a number of organizations, including the Marion County Farm Bureau, to bring a ag safety one-day workshop to the Coliseum later in this year. So I just wanted to have everyone look out for that. It's going to include silo safety and some first aid and some other stuff. So look for more on that. Now, without further ado, we are very happy that we were able to bring back our Lacey Award for another year, and expertly again facilitated by our Lacey Award Steering Committee. And I'm going to have Spencer Householder with Peacock Water, our Safety Council Steering Committee, and our Lacey Award Chair here to introduce today's award winners.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, I don't see anybody on here for Whirlpool, but correct me if I'm wrong. If you are on here, please jump on and let me know that you're here. Chris, I don't see you on here. But our first award is the Large Industrial Safety Award given to the company for their participation in John F. Lacey Award for maintaining a workplace injury rate well below national average for their industry. And that award for this year will go to Whirlpool. So congratulations, Whirlpool. And Chris, I'm sorry you're not on here, but congratulations if there is anybody on here. Matt, do you see anybody on here from Whirlpool? Yeah.
I do not.
Okay. So I apologize for that. And I'm sure they know already, right? So that's great that they know. The next award is a John F. Lacey Award. And that is the final award we have for today. The John F. Lacey Award is presented to the company that best represents the health and safety pioneers spirit of Mr. Lacey. And I'm going to read this little article so everybody knows who John F. Lacey is, because one of the things that Laura and I discussed when we were in the meeting is a lot of people just don't even know who he is or who he was. So John F. Lacey was an employee of the Commercial Steel Castings Division of Osgood Company, once located in Marion, who started as a clerk and worked his way up to vice president of the company. Mr. Lacey was a pioneer in safety and health for his company and also for foundry industry. Following his death in 1954, one of his associates recognized his interest in safety and welfare of all workers and suggested a memorial in his honor. The idea was presented to the Marion Area Safety Council in 1956. The council approved the establishment of the John F. Lacey Safety Contest and Memorial Award. And that award for this year goes to Glen-Gery Brick. And that's a huge cheer there, huge cheer. When we met with you guys, we've been there a lot of years, Laura and I, and a lot of times. And each year you progress and you progress and you progress and you do a wonderful job. And this year it was just, both companies were wonderful. I couldn't say enough about both companies, but you guys just really maxed it out this year. And I was very proud of you, not to sound condescending, very proud of what you've done out there. So would you guys like to say anything, Tanya, Ken, anybody?
Yeah, I'm going to jump on. We want to thank everybody with the Marion Safety Council and with the Lacey Award investigations. At Glen-Gery, we take safety seriously. I want to show you the awards sitting over here, and proudly displayed in our conference room right now, but we're going to actually build a case to get them down where everybody can see them. But we have 5 plant fundamentals that we go by every day, and the first one, as it should be, is safety. So we're very proud that we've been able to establish safety awareness in our people and that they participate in the workplace safety committees. We're also proud to be part of your council. I mean, it's so great to see so many companies that take safety as seriously as we do. I've been in places prior to coming here that talk safety, even from corporate talk it, but they don't really mean it. And I feel like this council and our plant and a lot of the other plants that we've been connected with through this believe in it. So that's a great thing. And lastly, I just want to recognize our safety leader, Tanya, to my left over here, who truly brings safety and a high energy level to safety and keeps everybody motivated and involved. And Bobby Lear, he's the leader of our safety committee sitting here, and he also has a great job with the hourly group, keeping them involved and leading the team forward. But thank you very much. We're very proud to win this award.
Very good job, guys. Very good. Okay, Matt.
Thank you, Spence. Congratulations again to the entire team at Glen-Gery. We're all just very proud of all the work you've done over the years, and that you guys were recognized with this great award. 66 years this has been in the community. That's a huge undertaking. If anybody is interested again in applying for next year, we strongly encourage it. But again, congratulations to Glen-Gery, and thanks again to Spence, of course, with Peacock Water, Jordan Boyd with Nucor Steel, Frank Gibson with Tri-Rivers Career Center, Thad Scher with Poet, Shannon Millar with Arbet Staffing and Recruiting, and of course, Laura Smith with the BWC for your help in the award process, and the rest of the steering committee for their help with the Marion Area Safety Council planning. Congratulations again to both Whirlpool and of course Glen-Gery. Now on to our topic for today, which again is fighting workers' compensation fraud. And I believe Tamela Dixon and Scott Lape, and Scott is the special agent in charge of workers' compensation fraud at the BWC. And I did not catch Tamela's title, but I'm sure Tamela can relay that to us at the beginning of this presentation. And with that, I will have Tamela start us off for the rest of this program.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you to your members of your council for having us today. And congratulations to the award winners. That's exactly what we like to see. So thank you for that gracious introduction. Yes, Scott is the special agent in charge of the Southeast region of the Special Investigations Department. And as you can see on the screen, I am the assistant special agent in charge of the Southeast region. Between Scott and myself, not to date ourselves, we started very young, but between us, we probably have over 45 years of investigative experience. So we've been doing this a while, not because we have to, but because we love to. So Scott is going to control, he's the pilot, I'm the co-pilot. So Scott, next slide, please. So just a little overview of the agency. We like to tout our statistics here. So I promise I won't bore you with a lot of numbers, but total offices statewide, BWC has 11 total offices. When we started years ago, we had probably twice as many offices, but now we're down to 11. As far as personnel with the agency, we have a little under 1,800 employees statewide. Total open claims, as you can see, around 580,000. Total loss claims around a little over 207,000. Active employers, we have a little under 250,000 active employees across the state. And of those, total medical paid, you can see a lot, around 406 million, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about my bank account. And then total compensation paid, around 907 million. Total benefits paid, and these are huge numbers, a little under 1.5 billion. Next slide. So industry studies estimate that fraud represents between 5 and 20% of all workers' compensation benefits. If that is indeed correct at BWC, it would amount to 100 to 400 million of BWC's medical and compensation payments combined. Next slide. So some SID, special investigation historical statistics. Our department was established in July of 1993. Statewide, we have around, more or less 120 statewide staff all across the state. We've processed over 130,000 allegations. Of those, we've referred 5,600 criminal referrals, and which have resulted in a little over 3,000 criminal convictions. To date, we've saved the state over $2 billion. Next slide. Our fiscal year 21 stats, we processed a little under 2,500 allegations. We've closed 1,200 cases. Those resulted in 89 criminal referrals with 64 convictions. Now, some of those referrals, that doesn't mean that the ones that haven't been counted as convictions, they could still be pending with the prosecutors. So that doesn't mean they aren't going to be prosecuted. They could just be in a holding pattern. But total savings this fiscal year, a little under $95 million. Next slide. So just a little bit about the structure. You heard me say that Scott and I manage the Southeast region of the state. So we have different units that do different types of investigations. So you can see we're a unit of different, mechanics here. So we have our administrative section, which is what they do. They are directors, our top level management. They are included. We have a director, 2 assistant directors, 3 assistant directors, and then the administrative professionals that assist them. And then you see we have a digital forensic unit, and they are exactly what the name would imply. They do all of our, if we execute a search warrant, which we do, usually on medical providers, not so much injured worker cases, but some. They go in, they image computers, they do the forensics, they kind of do the behind the scenes work as far as analytics and things of that nature. So they are a staff, they are a very small staff, a staff of about 4 people. Then we have our employer section, and they investigate employer fraud or cases of alleged employer fraud. That means, people who don't carry coverage, people who have falsified certificates, people who have submitted faulty payments with us and who are behind in their premiums, people who have manipulated their codes so that their premiums are calculated at a lower rate, things of that nature. And then we have the intelligence unit, and they again are
Oh, Tamela, you're muted.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Sorry.
You're fine.
I didn't touch anything, I promise. Intelligence unit, they're kind of behind the scenes. They do the data mining for us. So they are kind of the proactive end of this. We get allegations, from multiple sources. People call in, people send us emails, people even still write us letters. Well, this unit kind of proactively goes out there. For instance, we have agreements with the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. And so what these folks will do is they will match a social security number and date of birth. They will run a cross match with Job and Family Services. And if we see that a claimant is receiving compensation and wages are being reported from an employer at the same time, that's a red flag for us. So they do that type of proactive work for us and generate allegations that way. Then we have our healthcare team. They investigate those who are providing healthcare services. So doctors, nurses, rehab folks, those are primarily pharmacists. They investigate pharmacists. And then we have our security staff, and they kind of do a potpourri of things. They do internal in-house investigations. They do threats. We get injured workers who are upset about how their claims may be managed. If they're not, getting their compensation in time, things of that nature. They will investigate those things. Injured workers who may, pose a harm to themselves just because of their condition. Maybe they're depressed or because of their injury or their financial situation. We get injured workers who, threaten suicide. And so they will kind of look at those types of cases. And then we have our safety violations investigative unit, and they go out to job sites where there's been, an injury or, God forbid, a fatality. They will go out, check the safety, make sure that everything was in place. Just say a roofer falls off the roof during the course of his or her employment. They will go out, were they wearing, the safety gear, how the accident happened. They are very progressive in their investigations where, years ago, they would have to actually get up on ladders themselves, check out the scene. And now we are very into drone technology. So they use drones to do a lot of the viewing of the accident site. And then the claimant teams, and that's who Scott and I manage. We do all of the injured worker allegations of fraud and abuse. And there is a difference, and we will go into that later. Primarily, claimant fraud, of course, is the biggest chunk of the allegations and the fraud, allegations that we receive, but you'll see a breakdown of that shortly as well. Next slide. And here it is. So just cases by type. Again, like I said, claimant fraud are the majority of the cases that we investigate. The next would be employer fraud, provider fraud, and then other. And we are at an interesting time right now. I don't know if you guys have heard, but there has been a lot of theft of the blue mailboxes, people stealing checks, people robbing even postal carriers of the arrow key. That's kind of like a universal key for all of the blue mailboxes. Well, what's happening is people were stealing mail out of the blue mailboxes. It just so happens some have involved checks that have gone out to employers and injured workers. And so what these thieves are doing, they're taking the paper checks, they're whitewashing them, and then putting their own information as the payee. They'll change the amount. So just say the check to an employer, maybe it's a rebate check for $1,500. These thieves are taking these checks, they're whitewashing it, putting their name in there, and maybe making the check for, $10,000. I was a victim myself around Christmas. I put 2 checks in the mail to pay medical bills, and they whitewashed my check. tried to cash one for $7,000 and another one for $1,000. So we have probably a case involving, I don't know, 15 or more possible subjects off of one check. So will you see that 3%? That's of other cases. Those are the other cases that kind of fall in there, those outliers. Scott, next slide. Oh, okay, this is it. That's it for me. I am going to toss it over to Scott. Thank you for your attention.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Tamela, for covering that first portion. First off, thank you for the invite to today's meeting. I hope you guys all learn some stuff from our presentation, kind of learn about what we do as in our department. I'm going to go through more of the nuts and bolts as to what we do on the claimant side. I have quite a bit of video to show you, some real life cases that we worked, just some interesting things, some more egregious type cases that we like to show. Before I get started, anybody has any questions as I go along, please feel free to just jump in and ask. I probably won't look at the chat as I go along, or hold your questions till the end. It doesn't matter to me if you want to ask questions, just feel free to shout out. So I'll go ahead and get started. Tamela mentioned earlier, fraud versus abuse. Certainly, we get allegations called in all the time. And of course, especially employers that call us about an employee that they suspect they're committing fraud. Everybody thinks it's fraud. Everybody thinks that what they're reporting is fraud. But in all reality, fraud is very difficult for us to prove. There is elements of a crime that we must prove to go after somebody fraudulently. So the biggest takeaway from this slide, if you're committing fraud, if we prove that you're committing fraud, you can be criminally prosecuted. Abuse, you're milking the system. We have injured workers that are on compensation for years and years and years, and they just know how to milk the system, and they kind of walk that fine line. They're not committing fraud. They're just abusing the system, and they know how to get away with that. So we cannot prosecute abuse. The way we handle abuse is, internally, we'll get with the claims reps. We'll try to get exams scheduled. We'll try to get their compensation cut off through, an exam. But fraud, if we are able to prove that the injured worker was committing fraud, we can certainly prosecute you for that. All right, Ohio Revised Code 291348. This is a ORC code specific to workers' compensation fraud. This is what we can prosecute claimants, employers, healthcare providers under this specific workers' compensation fraud. So basically, in order to prosecute under this ORC, we must be able to prove that the injured workers knew what they were doing was wrong, and they had a purpose to defraud the Bureau. There's a lot of information on this slide, but I'll go through that a little bit more thorough on one of the case reviews, or one of the case examples that I'm going to go over, of how we were able to meet the elements of this 291348. So the type of cases that we work, the vast majority of the cases that we're working now are simply working while receiving benefits, and that is what it states. Somebody is working, probably being paid cash under the table while they're receiving workers' compensation benefits. It's much easier if they're working for a legitimate company that's reporting wages to Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, because we do cross matches, like Tamela mentioned earlier. If they're working for a legitimate business, we're probably going to catch them at some point down the road, because we do a cross match with them. We'll get a hit and we'll open a case and we'll go out and get the records from that employer. Where these get really tricky is when they're working for a mom and pop shop, or that they're working for themselves, being paid cash under the table. Those are very hard for us to detect or find proactively. And typically we get those cases called in from, a disgruntled neighbor or an ex-spouse or an employer that calls us and suspects that somebody is out working under the table, getting paid cash under the table. So the next type of case, and this is one that we're seeing more and more often, physical activity case. That's simply where, the medical says that they can't do a certain activity. But obviously, if we're out watching them doing surveillance and they are doing things above what the medical states, that's a red flag for us. I have quite a few physical activity cases, some video that I'm going to show you later on. But that's a up and rising type of case that we're seeing more and more. False claims, we get false claims called into us all the time. I have a good false claim video I'm going to show you here soon, but we have injured workers that know they're going to be fired, or it's a seasonal job. They know their job is about to end. They want to remain on some sort of business or some sort of benefit. So they'll fake a fall, they'll fake an injury and file a false claim. Last type of case, a drug deception case. We don't see these very often, just due to some of the rules that the Bureau has put into place for prescription drugs. So that's a good thing that we've seen a decrease in this type of case. But we'll see injured workers who doctor shop. They'll try to get prescription drugs from different doctors and deceive the doctors without them knowing. The good thing is that we have the state now has a program in place called ORS that the doctors can kind of see who's prescribing what. So that has helped eliminate a lot of these type of cases. But unfortunately, we still see these cases, especially down in the like the southern, southeastern part of Ohio. But we still see these type of cases come into us. So I'm going to just jump into the some real life examples of some of the red flags that we see, some of the stuff that you guys might see on a daily basis of some of your employees or former employees. Claimant appears at medical appointments or IC hearings in stark contrast to their daily activities. So I'm going to go over this case. This is a criminal case. This was a self-assured employer. Reported it to our fraud hotline. They had a few concerns with the injured worker. They thought she was exaggerating her symptoms. She had a loss of use of her right lower limb, and she was receiving, at the time they called us in, called the allegation that she was receiving temporary total benefits. So we get this case called into us, and first thing we're going to do is look at the medical. We start looking at the medical, and this is just a few snippets of some of her medical. States she cannot walk with her foot. Her pain is intense, 10 out of 10. Coughing increases it, touching, wind, air, water pressure, shoes, cold hurts everything, nothing gives her relief. The last one, she uses a cane for steadiness. So this is good. We get this allegation called in that she's, they think she's exaggerating her symptoms. So we have this medical where she's telling her doctors that she's using a cane. She cannot walk on that foot. And we know that she has been granted a condition of loss of use of her right lower limb. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go do surveillance on her. And I'm going to play some of the surveillance video. I'm going to kind of talk through this. So here she is. Obviously, we go out there. She's not using a cane. Appears to have no discomfort of that right lower limb. We find out that she's enrolled in a culinary school in Columbus. And here she is at a IC hearing. Obviously, completely different than the surveillance that we've already done. She's using a cane. She used a cane all during the actual IC hearing inside. Here she is walking back to her car using a cane. And here she is after this IC hearing. No cane being used. She's carrying around, a big bag on her arm. No discomfort that it appears here. And now here she is at one of her medical appointments. She shows up using a cane. So obviously, if you guys see this, this is somewhat egregious. So now we have to prove intent. Like I said, there's elements of a crime that we must prove in these type of cases. We must prove that she knew what she was doing was wrong. And this is one of the ways that we do it. So an injured worker has to complete a C-84 form. And this is a form that allows the injured worker to get temporary total benefits. And the nice thing about every bureau form that an injured worker sign, we have fraud language. And on this fraud language, you can clearly see, I'm aware that any person who knowingly makes a false statement, misrepresentation, or concealment of fact is subject to felony criminal prosecution. So she signed 10 of these forms. She signed and dated it underneath this fraud language. So this is good. This is good intent to prove that she knew what she was doing was wrong. Now she pled guilty to a misdemeanor, first degree misdemeanor. We took the surveillance video, we showed it to her doctors. The doctors all said that they felt deceived. We took the video to her. We realized that she was in culinary school. Like I said, we interviewed the professors at that culinary school. They said she never used a cane, never used any medical devices. She was on her feet for 3 hours a day during school. So we took this to the IC. They vacated her loss of use of her right leg. They terminated her temporary total. And as a result, it was a total case savings of just over $186,000.
Hey, Scott,
Yes.
Matt's hand is raised.
Oh.
Go ahead, Matt.
Scott, just, back to that one slide, and I'm not familiar with these forms enough, but it looks like she had checked no to receiving any benefits or earnings. Is that her attempting to say that she wasn't actually looking for any sort of benefits, but also doing this? What was she getting the benefits of by doing this?
We have great eyes to see that, Matt. Are you talking about, can you see my cursor? Are you talking
Yes.
about this area here or this area up here?
The bottom, the benefits, earnings received or requested.
Yeah, so basically if an injured worker is receiving unemployment or any other type of benefit, they have to report that to us. In this case here, so this is not a working while receiving case. This was a physical activity case for us. So we knew she wasn't working while receiving. We knew this was a physical activity case. But yeah, if she's getting any type of assistance, unemployment, if she's, I think it states on here, are you, I think it actually, the C-84 asks the injured worker, are you working? And in a workers' comp, in a working while receiving case, that's really good. If they mark no, they're not working, and we get them working, we use that as intent on these forms. But that specific area down there, they must report any type of other income assistance that they're receiving while they're on temporary total, because we can reduce their temporary total if they're getting assistance elsewhere.
So that's her trying to say additional. In addition,
Yeah.
she was still from this form going to be receiving benefits. Gotcha. I'm with you now.
Correct. Yeah, anything additional. Yep.
Hey, Scott, can I jump in
Yep.
too? So just to, kind of put an emphasis on this case, and this, I don't know why this part always bothered me, in addition to the egregiousness of it all. So there was one doctor's note that she was getting an exam and she could not, she was allegedly in so much pain that she had to tell the doctor to stop in the middle of the exam, that she couldn't take, whatever, I don't know. He was probably, how they push on you, you feel this, you feel that, or whatever. And then I guess kind of as a, cherry on top, her husband was a physician. So, I won't say that he was coaching her or anything, but he was a resident at OSU at the time. He's since, gotten his license to practice, but she knew the right things to say. She knew the right symptomology to report. So I think that's kind of what got under my skin about, this case. Doctors take an oath to be upstanding and truthful, and then, for this. So I just kind of wanted to use that as a point of emphasis on this case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're right, Tamela. That was certainly part of this case. Yeah, we had assumed that she was being coached in her medical appointments, and as well as the employer, they had concerns about that as well. So, okay, I'll move on to the next red flag. Claimants are always a no-show or have limited availability for exams and appointments. Obviously, if our claims reps are calling the injured worker and always trying to get an exam scheduled, or if they're always a no-show at their medical exams or appointments, it's a good red flag that they might be out working. So claimant's activity is inconsistent with their allowed conditions. So this is a good one here. This is a pretty egregious video. I'm just going to play it. This is not a criminal case. Her face is blurred out on this one. This injured worker right here has basically total loss of her left arm, right arm, left leg, and right leg. She's basically wheelchair bound. This is her scooter that the Bureau paid for, and she is showing up at her medical appointment, which she's not supposed to be driving. She reports in her medical she doesn't drive, and here she is getting off the scooter, and she's going to load it up by herself with no, again, loss of use of both upper limbs and her lower limbs. I always want to point out that white tag that you see hanging from the wheelchair there. Just keep an eye on that for the next slide. So we did a lot of surveillance on her, and all the other surveillances, she had no scooter, no cane, no crutches, nothing. She was always on her own, driving on her own, in and out of grocery stores, never using this scooter. But she was granted permanent total disability, loss of use of all 4 limbs. Now here's that scooter that she was riding. We found that she posted this online for sale. And as you can see, still has the tag on it. Like you saw earlier, it was flapping around. Just bought 2 new batteries. It's been sitting and not used, like brand new. And we know that she wasn't using it. So she was granted permanent total disability and decided to sell the wheelchair that the Bureau had bought for her. So we took this to the Industrial Commission. They vacated the loss of use of all of her arms and her legs. They terminated her PTD benefits. She was very, she's very young. A lot of those allowed conditions are we pay a lot for. Total case savings of $622,000. And the way that works, it's an actuarial savings. So had we not intervened and had we not terminated her PTD, she would have received that for her entire life. That was the amount of money that the Bureau could have potentially paid out into the future into that claim. So that's how we do those total savings, actuarial savings. So pretty egregious case. Next red flag, claimants who perform seasonal work that is about to end when they file a claim. Like I mentioned, that's typically a false claim. If an injured worker knows their work or their job is about to end, they might file a claim just in order to stay on workers' comp and get a claim to keep them through the the winter months or the summer months, and then get back off benefits and get rehired into a different profession. So claimants who report a different injury to their doctor compared to their first report of injury. Again, this is kind of along the lines of a false claim. I'm going to show you a false claim video here. Now, before I play this, I'm going to set the stage here. This injured worker, one, probably had no idea that the employer has video in this part of the warehouse. We found out that she was on a 3rd strike, meaning she was probably going to be fired here soon. And she decided that she wanted to trip and fall and file a false claim. So I'm going to play the video here. Now you're going to see her walk out here. There is an employee down here, but his back is to her. So keep your eye on her. And there she goes. Tripped and fell. She reported that she tripped and fell over a crack on the floor. She gets help from her coworkers. They carry her out the door and she goes to the emergency room. Now, what's interesting about this, she had reported a different injury on her first report of injury. She reported a different injury on her employer's like accident form. And then she reported a different injury when she got to the ER. So we had 3 different inconsistent injuries that she reported. We interviewed her, showed her the video. She subsequently got fired, and she admitted to filing the false claim. The claim was never allowed by the Bureau, so the claim remained in a denied status. So, but pretty good egregious video there. She tripped over apparently a crack in the floor. Claimants who appear at medical appointments wearing work clothes have dirty, calloused hands. So this is another video here. I'll just kind of talk through it as it plays. This injured worker, he was on temporary total benefits at the time of this video. We knew he had an exam this day, so we wanted to get out and do surveillance on him. And sure enough, he shows up at the job site. He's working before the medical exam. Obviously, he's in work clothes here. You'll see a zoomed up picture. Here you see white paint or whatever on his hands. And now he shows up at the medical appointment. He's in his work van. Here he is, probably kicking off all the dust and sawdust or whatever he had. Now here he is. He shows back up at the work site, showing the guys that he works with probably what he was doing inside the exam. Now this case was not a criminal referral. This was a working while receiving case. He was on temporary total for a very short period of time. We had only conducted surveillance a couple of times, but we took this to the IC. We got his temporary total terminated and a small overpayment for the time period that we had him working. So again, not a criminal case on this one either. And I think this is the last case I have. Individual social media posts are in clear contrast to their medical conditions. We always like to show this one because this one is a very egregious case. So Tamela had mentioned our intelligence unit. We got this allegation from our intelligence unit. This injured worker, Jason Daly, was receiving statutory permanent total disability. And what that means is if you're on statutory PTD, you are permitted to work. Basically, your injuries it's typically a catastrophic injury. You're never going to get better. You apply for to be a statutory PTD, which allows the injured worker to go back to work, but they remain in receiving permanent total disability. Our intelligence unit proactively looked at these statutory PTD individuals who had moved out of state. And they came across this individual's Facebook page and other social media page. And what he was posting was clearly in contrast to what he had reported to get PTD, what he was reporting to his medical doctors. So just a little backstory about this guy. He was legitimately injured. He was a firefighter up in Youngstown. He was involved in a motor vehicle accident. His fire truck turned over 2002. He was granted total loss of use of his upper left extremity back in 2006, and then granted statutory PTD in 2006. And then he moved to Myrtle Beach. A lot of times these injured workers move out of state, and they probably don't think that the Bureau, the state, is going to be able to watch them or do surveillance on them, moving out of state. But in reality, we travel out of state for investigations. If we find injured workers who committing fraud, we'll either hire a private investigator to do surveillance on for us, or we'll travel down and do surveillance as well. This case was a little unique because this guy decided to post his entire life on social media, which made it very easy for us to work this case. So I'm going to show you a couple pictures. The pictures I'm going to show you are some of the more egregious pictures that we have. So remember, he has a loss of use of his left upper extremity. He was an avid fisherman. And again, this guy was not working. This was a physical activity case that we were working. So clearly the pictures that we have doesn't look like he, or maybe it looks like he has regained strength in his left extremity that he has a loss of use for. Now, this last picture I'm going to show you, this was kind of the last picture that kind of really helped us help this case. And I'll kind of explain it a little bit to you. So he became a bodybuilder when he moved down to South Carolina. And obviously, as you can tell, he continued lifting, continued to be a bodybuilder. So what we did in this case is we took all of the social media that we had, and we put a nice package together, and we showed it to the doctors that had certified his loss of use. And we asked the doctors, hey, do you think that he, has he gotten better? Do you think he still has loss of use? And we got their opinion. And of course, doctor's opinion, no, we do not believe he has loss of use anymore. Great. So we took the doctor's opinion, we took all the evidence that we had, and we took this to the Industrial Commission. And we lost at the first level hearing. It's kind of a surprise to us, but he showed up, he traveled up here from Myrtle Beach, and he showed up and he was wearing a back brace, he was wearing a neck brace. And his argument to every one of these pictures was that, there's no date and time on these photos. And what we've learned is that is right. Facebook strips all that information. When they upload pictures, videos into Facebook, there is no time date stamp. So we lost at the first level hearing. So now we had an uphill battle. We appealed it. The full commission accepted our appeal. And then it was on us to try to time date these photos that we have. And the reason I said this picture here was kind of key to our appeal. We knew what kind of phone this was, and we went to Verizon, and Verizon was able to give us the exact model and the date that this phone was released. There's other pictures not in here. He was an avid Harley Davidson rider. He attended a bunch of different, Harley Davidson events. He was wearing shirts that had the date on it. So we used all those shirts. So we tried to kind of time date all these photos that we could. And we took it back to the full commission. They heard it, and they agreed with us. They vacated the loss of use of his left arm. They terminated his PTD, and a total case savings of $459,000. So again, this is not a criminal case. This was somebody that was just milking the system. They knew how to. They moved down to Myrtle Beach. They just milked it and got away with it. But we got the PTD terminated. So again, a good egregious case that we like to show. I think that kind of wraps it up. That's the last case that I had. This is our contact information. We post everything to our Facebook, Twitter accounts. If you want to follow us on there, we put all of our media releases on there. But I'll open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions or comments.
Thank you both, Tamela and Scott, for the presentation. Good information. Any other tips, I guess, for businesses to look out for? You mentioned some of those red flags, but any other, I guess, preventative things that businesses can do?
I do. I'm reading your comment in the chat, Matt. So Scott, I don't know if you saw it, but Matt said he wants to make sure that we got through the presentation, which we did. But you were talking about, Matt, and I don't want to speak for you, but since you have the floor,
Yes.
but you were talking about the cameras. Did you want to?
Yeah, just, yeah, like you said, Tamela, I wasn't sure if, yeah, we want to make sure you get through it, but back to the video of the camera that caught her fake tripping. I didn't catch if you said that she was I think you said that she was maybe not aware of the fact that there was video that was covering that section of the warehouse.
Right.
But it also sounded like having cameras in your facility is important. So do you need to make sure all of your employees are aware of the fact they're being recorded, or could that person have countered in some way to not knowing that she was being recorded? I just want to make sure is that something that maybe she was told in the employee guidebook, but then forgot?
You know what, I don't know the rules of, in the workplace as far as having cameras. I mean, as far as preventative, like you had just asked, obviously, when we get a false claim allegation, first thing we ask employers, do you have video? Do you have video of the incident? And a lot of them have great video like the one you just saw. And a lot of them don't. But as far as rules of having it, obviously she knew we had video after, when we confronted her with the video. But, I'm not sure if that's between the employer and the employee as far as what their policy and procedures are at each place.
And if I could jump in, and I'm sure most employers have, legal representation. I would just, advise that they talk with their counsel just to make sure as far as disclosure, what the rules of disclosure. I mean, I know that Ohio, is a one-party consent state, meaning that, typically you don't have to disclose, but like Scott said, with private employers and things, getting into the weeds like that, I don't have a legal degree. So I just always refer people to their legal counsel. Or, honestly, if you do disclose to your employees, it's for their safety and it's for both people's protection. So I would look at it that way, not that you're spying or anything like that, but it's to protect both parties involved. So I don't, I guess it's a double-edged sword. You could disclose and, why not? To keep everybody, protects everybody. That's just my personal take on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just jump in real quick. I know I flew through my portion. I wanted to get us done by noon. I'm going to share this presentation with you. I'll send it in an email. Obviously, it has my contact information in there. Please, if anybody has questions after this, give me a call, shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to discuss any questions that you might have, or any, if you have any employees that you suspect, obviously I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Yes, we'll share all of that with everyone here, and then those that are watching the recording as well will get a copy of the presentation and your contact information for sure.
Okay.
Any other closing thoughts? With that, we do have, of course, this is May, so we've got one more meeting for this program year before we get into our new and back to normal July program year for the 2022-2023 program year. So we're excited about that, and more information will be coming out very soon. But thank you those that are able to watch this and those that are watching the recording. Thank you again, of course, to Scott and Tamela for a great presentation, and big congratulations again to Whirlpool and Glen-Gery on the Lacey Award and the Large Business Industry Safety Award. And we will see you all next month. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.